masters, masters, masters of change.
Hello there. Welcome to Masters of Change. My name is Kim Corneo and I'm the Head of Music at the Australian National University, and it's my great joy to be here with Charlie Hogg, who's the Director of the Brahma Kumaris in Australia. Welcome again, Charlie.
Thanks so much, Kim. Lovely to be here again.
Well, we've been having quite a lot of these spiritual discussions of late, and we hope that you who are listening really enjoy them. And we're in the middle of what's a very interesting thematic series on communication. And so last time I asked you why communication, I wanted to ask you something very, very deep this time, which is, why do souls need to communicate?
Because I think that at the heart of life is connection. I mean, we are beings who, I think at the core of our sort of operating mode, I can say, is to love and connect. It's sort of a part of human life, really. And I think that the sort of the vehicle to make us connect with each other and, in a sense, enjoy the fragrance. In one of the past episodes, you were sort of talking about flowers. And in sort of communication, you offer your fragrance into the atmosphere, and then the other is sort of offering their unique fragrance too. And I think that is such a beauty of life, to connect.
So really what you're saying, Charlie, is that no matter what we think of this myth that to be spiritual I might need to lock myself in a room, really when it comes to it, most of us want to be with other people. Yeah?
I think it's in our DNA, Kim. To have relationship is in the DNA of the human soul. And I think that unfortunately in our world, as I'm sure you know, that a lot of people are so damaged by relationships, they do withdraw. They either withdraw physically or they build a wall around their heart. You know, that sort of thing. That, because they've been so hurt so many times and they've lost trust, so they don't let anyone really in, so because it's just too hurtful. And I think too, you know, I've had the experience, there's so many broken hearts and closed hearts and hurt hearts and damaged hearts in our world. So, and I think one of the ways of healing a lot of that is elevated spiritual communication.
Charlie, this is a beautiful answer, but it's not an easy answer, because you're really saying to us, even though we'd all like it to be sunny every day, sometimes it's going to be winter.
Yeah.
You know, all of us, this is what you're saying, all of us, no matter how nice we are, no matter how much of an effort we make, all of us will suffer sometimes.
Yeah, it's so true, Kim, isn't it? I mean, a part of life is conflict, and if I'm honest, I think when I was younger, I avoided it. Because I think it's such an uncomfortable human experience. You avoid it. You either avoid it physically, or even sort of you learn just to sort of shut down. And though I think most people just carry it inside their head a lot. And I think it's common for most of us to try to avoid conflict because we don't really know how to resolve it and don't know how to deal with it. And so we really sometimes we physically avoid the people we're in conflict with, or when we're with them, we just build that wall around my heart that just won't let them in at all. So the other side of that, though, is it doesn't let my love out either. So the wall stops me being loving and it stops love coming in.
Charlie, is that a little bit like the flight and fight that we sometimes hear? That, you know, when you talk to a psychologist, they say, you've been in flight and fight for years. And I've got a number of people I know who do see psychologists, and they say that this is one of the big things that they have to work on, is to not go into this sort of duality, this idea that either I'm flying away from a situation because I'm scared of it, or I go, this is wrong, I'm going to take it on.
Yeah.
So my question is there a third way?
I think there really is a third way, and it's taking responsibility for me and how I feel, and I think that other people become instruments to sort of show me stuff about myself. And I think spiritually, the whole idea of being on a spiritual journey is that I'm learning about myself, and there are weaknesses I have, and sometimes they're not very pleasant, but it's not that I'm a bad person, it's just that I've accumulated misunderstandings, because when I forget who I am and I'm body conscious, my whole thinking process are clouded by ego and dependency and projection and a whole lot of rubbish that distorts my perception of me. And then, that's why some people, the moment there's a bit of conflict, they're out the door. They just keep running. And the whole life, they just keep running. And other people just keep fighting. And I think neither really works. They're both painful experiences. But I think spiritually, what we're learning is to take responsibility. And in a way, Kim, I find that if you begin to look at the conflict you have with yourself, you start to learn how to resolve it with others too.
This is really, to me, the heart of the matter. It seems to me, and I'm no psychologist, neither are you, but we both try and witness ourselves, is that so often when we have a real issue with someone else, they're triggering something in ourselves, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and that's what I love about spirituality, Kim, is that ultimately you take responsibility for yourself. That's being honest, and that's the truth. And I think that I often say, the first law of spirituality is that I am responsible for how I feel. Things happen all around me. People behave badly, there's absolutely no doubt. And in the world today, there's a lot of dysfunctional behavior. But I always have the choice. Do I fight? Do I run away? Or do I, decide how I will respond? And the more I respond to my higher nature, the more I like myself. The more I keep running away, the more I keep fighting. Deep down, I don't really feel that's the right... We know that's not the right solution. And I think what I've learned from the Brahma Kumaris is that really when you strengthen that relationship with God, you have this incredible support in a way, and it's absolutely real. It's not just like a, something temporary, but it's a real relationship. You get an internal strength to sort of see, well, what's my part in a situation, and take responsibility. And try, when I need to apologize, I can apologize. And when I need to really adjust something in the way I think or perceive things. This is greatness, I feel, when we have the courage to say, yes, all that stuff is happening, but ultimately I'm responsible for me. And to me, if you make that decision, 50% improvement in the quality of life overnight.
Charlie, I want to thank you for that answer. I find it really inspiring. Because often we feel powerless, don't we?
We do.
Especially if there's anger, and even more especially if we think there's something I could have done better.
Yeah.
Because we are the ones who beat up on ourselves 100 times more than the other person.
Yeah, we do.
But I have a little question, and again, it's a trick question because you've already answered it. So I'm in a situation with someone else, and I'm about to go into flight or fight or whatever it is. Is it possible to ask, why have I given my power away before something happens? And what can I do to stop that?
Yeah, it's a great question, because we do give our power to situations, don't we, Kim? And we do give our power to people's bad behaviour, and we allow that to dominate me, and then I blame you. It is the human condition at the moment, and it's easy for you and I to talk about it, but because we have patterns, and this is, I think, a part of the transformation, isn't it? That at first we intellectually know how we want to behave, but to implement it in your subconscious or even your sanskaras, where you don't take on the sorrow, you don't just want to run out the door, because sometimes you know how the feeling is just, I want to get out of here, I'm not comfortable, or I want to just, you've said this to me, I'm just going to say this back to you, and let it all out. And so the clash of egos, it will never go anywhere. And yet we fall for it all the time, this this sort of behaviour. And I think that really I find that if you meditate in the morning and you've really created that sense of peace, you won't overreact at the moment. And this is really what I would call spiritual awareness. You are aware at the moment. So rather than the flight or the fight, you keep your awareness now. That no, I'm not going to react. I'm just going to hold my sense of self-value. And what is the right course of response or reaction to this situation that often comes instantly? A word from somebody or you don't even have any time. You've got to come from, that instant response, and it has to come out of your truth in a way.
Charlie, there is a term called conflict resolution, and it's, different to our discussion, but there are people who facilitate, of course, and they bring people together, which to me seems a very, very noble path for people to take in this life. And I don't know a huge amount about it, but I know that they often talk about setting up a process by which time everyone can be heard. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about this human need again, for we might so often think that we have the answer when we're dealing with a conflict. How do we get beyond that? This idea that I'm the one who's got the solution, not you.
Yeah. It's, all things in life need a lot of humility, don't they, Kim? And I suppose the more you have self-respect, you can respect that people, equally have their self-respect and have a lot of insights into aspects of life. Because, the incredible thing is to understand how different everyone is, how differently programmed everybody is, and yet everyone will have solutions to problems. And if I am open to that, I think it's great, because I often feel today I find that when people come to our meditation centres, scratch the surface, everyone is carrying a conflict or a whole series of differences and conflicts. That creates so much overthinking in their life. And I often say that if you want to resolve it, you can sit down with the person and try and work through it, but often words even can complicate it. Secondly, you can sit with a third party and really do that with an honest heart to really listen to. That's often quite good. But often it really is, I just have to let it go inside of me. And I remember one person that he was telling me he had a falling out with his best friend. And when he rang his best friend, he wouldn't answer his calls, and this went on for years, And then he went to a third party, a friend, a mutual friend, said, I want to talk, and the guy wouldn't still talk. And when he looked at it, he said, when I really looked at it, I was saying to him, come on, let's be friends, let's resolve it. But deep down, he said, I was still thinking, I was right. Oh, let's get on. But deep down, I'm thinking, I'm right and you're wrong. And you know what he did? He did that work on that feeling of being right and of realising that the other party is right too. And he took his calls. Once he removed that ego that I'm right and you were wrong, because I think that's the bottom line in conflicts, because even you say, let's get on, let's be the best friends, let's make up, and it's still deep down, I carry the position, you were wrong. And that's never going to really heal a conflict, a deep conflict.
Charlie, I've actually got goosebumps in that answer, because not only are we not necessarily right, but we not necessarily can do anything.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is a profound teaching, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That sometimes the only thing I can do is to do nothing.
That is so true, Kim. And sometimes we just in life you just have to accept there's not much I can do. What I can do is not constantly mentally revise it. Just realise that we're at a time where there's deep accounts with different people. We can say karmic accounts. And sometimes the more you try to resolve it, the worse it can get. So that's a sign. Just let me leave it. Not sit around thinking about this person and going on. Just pull back and take responsibility to keep myself happy and have just say that at the moment, this may not be a really resolvable situation.
Charlie, could I ask you a little bit more about karma? You mentioned karma then, and I think we will all have some knowledge of what karma is because it's part of our popular culture in almost every country now. It's incredible. But in the sense of a conflict, how does karma come into it?
Deeply, I would say. Kim, there's layers of conflict, isn't there? And I have some friends in Australia who are professionals in conflict resolution. They have 10 levels of conflict, and what they say, it keeps escalating. Unless it's resolved, it goes from 2 to 3, 3 to 4. When it gets to about 6, it even gets physical, So, and often what we do is we keep avoiding it because it's so uncomfortable, but what happens is it keeps escalating. Conflicts can just keep escalating unless we, like you were saying before, if we just feel that there's nothing much to do, at least mentally I resolve it. But it's all to do with the past, and that's why sometimes with some people there's a little conflict. You can get over it. You're light. It's okay. But some people it just seems to be deeper and deeper and deeper, and therefore mentally I have to emerge a wisdom. There is an account with this person. They're not a bad person. That's the thing to understand. Because I have an account with them doesn't mean they're a bad person. They're a good person. But we have some history together, and me equally. And we now have to, or at least what I have control of is my response. So rather than buying into a conflict, overthinking and over-talking about it, I have to actually develop some spiritual plan to heal myself of the damage that conflict may create.
Oh, Charlie, thank you. Now, I'd like to tell you a very quick story and then get your thoughts on this story. So I've decided I'm going to become an actor, and I'm cast into a play, and in that play there's a huge amount of conflict with someone. And I go, wow, this is an incredible experience. And then halfway through the play, something comes up for me, and I actually genuinely get quite angry because I'm acting out the conflict. And it seems to me this is the story of the soul in a body.
Yeah.
We are souls, and then we actually, on some level, we decide to take this body. This is one of the greatest mysteries, why we come into this body, this time, this place. We could have 1,000 episodes and not get to the bottom of that because it's impossible. But we do, don't we? We come into a body. There's a set of accounts that have to be worked through. We play our part in this huge drama of life.
Yeah.
And yet, on some level, we forget that we're just acting.
Yeah, we do. The great words of Shakespeare, the world is a stage and we are actors on the stage. And, the sun, the moon, the stars are the lights of the stage. It's an incredible image, isn't it? Because it's really, I love it in a way. And in a play, Kim, as we know, some of the heroes and heroines, they're always great. But some play the role of the baddies. And it's not that they're bad, they're acting. And it's the same in life too. Some people's old karmic accounts come through. Some people, under the influence of their sanskaras and their past, behave in certain ways. Now, it's not easy. I don't think we can underestimate, for those listening, it's not easy dealing with people who are really sort of angry and hurt human beings. But I think that if I take responsibility not to really take sorrow from them, I can relieve a lot of the karmic story. The more I fight back, the more I do things, I'm increasing the karmic story. The more I shouldn't even lie down and let them push me over, but the more I just live in my self-respect. And I sort of have this understanding, this is an account from the past, but now I'm on a spiritual journey. I'm not going to increase it. Through my meditation, through my attitude, I'm going to heal this account.
Charlie, this is a very interesting idea because you're touching on something that there's almost thematic conflicts. So we might have actually the same conflict 20 times in our life with different people.
Yeah, that's so true.
And we keep saying, you're the problem.
Yes.
But really it becomes a disposition of us in this garment of the body, like we just find that bit of life really hard to navigate.
And it's our blind spots, isn't it, Kim? We sort of, I think that's one of the biggest things, that the more I forget who I am as a soul, I become blind to who I really am. The blindness to my beauty, but the blindness to... I can't see it because it's uncomfortable. And then you said, it keeps cropping up every time in relationships, and it's still I don't get the message. It's something about me. Because we tend to always... I think the more we step away from truth, the more we point the finger. The more I'm really under truth, truth will say, well, I have no control over you, but what I have as control over is my responses to you. I can bring some change in how I respond to these quite often difficult situations and relationships, yes.
Charlie, this has been, to me, a fantastic discussion because it's not an easy topic. Even when we're talking it, at times I feel like that fire come up within me. Because, let's just repeat, all of us have had conflict. No one is so pure they've never had conflict.
Yeah.
That there is, no matter how nice they might look in their whites or their special spiritual garments, no matter how good they look in meditation, everyone has had conflict. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is amazing. And that's where it's a part of life, isn't it, Kim? It's, we just have to accept, and really for me to sort of develop ways of dealing with my conflicts, whether it's with you or with myself, that's a part of why we're on this spiritual journey, isn't it, to learn these things.
So Charlie, it's that time. I think it's time for us to go within and for you to give us more of that internal power to deal with those internal and external conflicts.
Thanks again, Kim. For each and every one of us, at different times in our life, we will all experience conflict with others. And this is one of the greatest learnings on the spiritual journey. Because the first learning tells me I can't control others. As much as I would sometimes prefer them to speak or behave differently, they are a unique soul on their own karmic journey in life. Where I have power and influence is to transform my thoughts, my feelings, my attitude, and my behavior. It does take spiritual strength. And this is why when a conflict emerges in my life, rather than becoming highly emotional, reacting, overthinking, step into my wisdom and understand that differences will emerge. The accounts from the past will appear. And rather than increasing them with gossip and criticism, I want to free myself from my past. So I choose to become soul conscious and connect with God. And in this space, it's almost like I become a detached observer. And I understand this difference with another has come to teach me more about myself, and mostly not to take more sorrow. The law of karma says, don't give sorrow, that don't take sorrow. The more I become soul conscious, the more I live in my self-respect. I will not give sorrow, and I will not take sorrow. So that I begin to heal myself. And with this spiritual power, not only do I not think about others who I may be in conflict with, I can even emerge benevolent feelings. And these benevolent feelings clear the accounts of hurt, pain, and sorrow. A spiritual life is a life to emerge good wishes and pure feelings for those around me. Om Shanti.
Charlie, it's so fitting that you finished that beautiful commentary with the words Om Shanti, because maybe that's all we need to know in this big, big episode about conflict. If I remember that I am a soul, and that you, whoever you are a soul, and that I'm on some level just looking into the mirror. If I am this indivisible point of light, and so are you, we're twins, we're brothers, we're sisters, we're family on the deepest level. And you've given us so many strategies and thoughts, but also this underlying hope that we just have to remember on some level. So thank you, Charlie, for another beautiful conversation.
Thanks again, Kim.